Hideous Energy, episode 148.
Yo, bros and sisters. I'm apologizing.
This is the first of two intros you're going to hear on the show.
That's true. We did
Kind
one
of.
in the hotel room, right?
Yeah. We are fresh back from SPX, which stands for Small Press Expo.
It does.
In Bethesda, Maryland,
Which-
although we typically call it Virginia, right?
We call it almost every other state other than Maryland. SPX, they missed a letter in their acronym. There's an E. Yeah.
Well, I think it's because X, just like SFX, sound effects.
Is that your argument?
It's the sound, yeah. It's more the sound.
Okay.
I'm explaining it to you. Are you mad? I'm not being cheeky. I'm explaining the way that they did it.
All right.
We went to SPX in Maryland, and we're going to talk to you about it. It was a pretty awesome trip.
It was really, really great.
We met a lot of awesome people.
We did. Got to hang out with people, and
We have one silent partner in the segment you're about to listen to.
we do. Now, he says one thing.
He says one thing, yeah. And then I
it's-
totally put
and
him on the
it's
spot
excellent.
later. And I'm like, you want to say anything else? And he didn't. And I
Yeah.
felt kind of guilty.
You should.
I did.
He doesn't listen anymore.
No, he's done.
Uh,
Before we get to that, what?
Nothing.
Okay. Like you're hiding something. Nothing.
Nothing. Dude, don't look over here.
Before we get to that, though, we wanted to talk about some things, namely drugs.
Cocaine.
Don't do it
It's the worst.
unless you're an adult.
Heroin's better.
If you're an adult, it's great. Drugs are fun, kids.
We want to thank Small Press Expo before we go into this any further. Specifically, MDT, the letter M. People apparently call him that, MDT.
Do they?
I think so. I saw someone on Twitter being like, thanks to MDT.
Is that like his wrestling name? It sounds like a wrestling name.
It sounds like a move he would do.
MDT.
Or like that. He would shout it like that.
Like his own name.
Yeah.
MDT.
Austin Ray Wilson.
Yeah, he hooked us up with some press badges. SPX is a great show. We talk about it here in a little bit.
It's fucking excellent.
So make sure you check out their website, follow them on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff.
Tumblr.
If you're around next year, which sounds like maybe I'm saying you might not be
If you're
alive.
going to be alive next year,
If you are alive, though,
Hit
you
us
should
up.
go and meet us there. This year was exponentially more fun than last year because we knew people and got to hang out, and it was pretty awesome.
you'll hear some more about that chocolate fountain that we talked about already.
Yep.
But we don't want to spoil that for you yet.
You can probably guess what kind of joke it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hideous Energy, we are a comic book podcast. If this is the first time you've ever listened, this episode is going to be very, very
Short.
indie heavy too. So if you came for Spider-Man, you're going to hear about
Not here today.
not Spider-Man.
Yeah. Which isn't a bad thing.
No, it's not. And we like Spider-Man as long
We
as his
love
name's
him.
Miles Morales.
Correct.
So
Mundo.
this is kind of the exception. We talk about all kinds of comics. If you read more traditional Marvel DC stuff, we talk about those every once in a while. So check previous episodes, check back next week.
We do.
But if you like indie stuff, this is going to be a good episode for you.
To give you a hint of things to come, we're going to talk about The End of the Fucking World by Charles Forsman at some point. David and I got a lot of stuff from SPX that we're going to read and talk about.
Yes. So check us out on iTunes, Blogspot. We are also on Facebook and Twitter. You can like us and follow us and all that jazz. We are sponsored by Discount Comic Book Service. They, in fact, are the reason we were able to go to SPX.
They are.
We used every single last dollar that we had. That is not a joke.
Every
the last
fucking
$15 were what allowed us to get home and eat.
Yeah.
And eat, in fact.
Yep.
As we mentioned later in the episode, there were, in fact, 2 separate charges at Krispy Kreme Donuts.
There were.
Using money from Discount Comic Book Service, so thank you for that. We got a pumpkin donut, I believe.
We got a pumpkin one.
It was like pumpkin cheesecake.
Wait, you're thinking of the first time we got donuts, which was at Tim Riggins's or wherever it is.
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons. The second and third time we got donuts was at Krispy Kreme, and I got a cheesecake filled one.
Yeah,
which
but it was
just-
pumpkin, wasn't it?
I don't
Pumpkin
remember.
cheesecake?
It was literally
Pumpkin cheesecake.
It was like. It was called like the fat fucker or something,
was.
where they're just like, we're going to deep fry this, fill it with cheesecake, and then feed it to you.
Yeah.
Go check out hideousenergy.com. It'll take you to fanoff.com. They host our show. So
What, you're regressing. We're talking about Discount Comic Book Service.
yeah, well, you skipped the Fanoff thing.
We don't have to mention Fanoff. I said hideousenergy.com. That takes you to Fanoff.
You didn't say that.
Yeah, I did.
You didn't.
Yes, I did.
You didn't.
I did.
Let's do this longer.
I did.
Do that. There's more podcasts
If
there.
Fanoff wants to pay us, I'll talk about them all the time.
That's a really mean thing to say, and I want you to shut up.
They're really nice. I like them a lot.
We love Fanoff, so go there. HideousEnergy.com takes you there. Yes, our sponsor is DCB Service, and they are, in fact, why
Why don't you talk about them like it's more of a chore, Austin? I clearly love them more than you.
our sponsor is DCB Service. I sort of did the...
Like Paula Dean, kind of.
Y'all. Go to dcbservice.com. If you haven't already used our code, the code is the word hideous and the numeral 8.
HIDEOUS8.
If you type that in, it'll give you an additional 8% off of your already heavily discounted order.
40% off already.
So with the 8%, it'll give you 48% off.
If you've used the code before, it won't work again. So don't try to be the sneaksies and get a second punch in there at that code. It's not going to work.
You know what happens when fucking the fat hobbitses try to sneak? They get their shit punched. So don't do it.
Finally, on Friday, so this is coming out on Wednesday, September 18th.
Yes.
This coming Friday, the 20th, a couple things are going to happen. iOS 7 is going to drop, and my job is going to be exponentially more frustrating.
That drops on the 18th.
Oh, does it?
Yes.
Oh, the new iPhones, sorry.
Yeah.
The new iPhones come out. So never mind. As you're hearing this, my job is already hell.
hard. Already hard for David.
But more importantly, we have an interview with the creator of Moth City, Tim Gibson.
Yes.
You can find his comics online at mothcity.com. He's also on Thrillbent. You can buy his comics on Comixology as well. We have a lengthy chat with him. He's in New Zealand. He is in the future. You'll hear all about it on Friday.
It's very interesting.
He tells us some things about our present in the United States that haven't happened yet for us. You'll see.
Scary, sort of insensitive things.
Do we talk about dicks? Yes. Do we talk about sucking each other off?
Yes.
That's an affirmative.
The answer is yes.
That's an affirmative.
Tim Gibson is one of the most interesting creators working right now. You need to check his stuff out if you haven't already. It's gorgeous looking stuff and very interesting, as I said already.
Good job, man.
I have the words. They are my clay.
Hideous Energy, episode 148.
Going on 6 hours of sleep.
Like combined or from last night?
Combined. Maybe like 9.
Combined over the past 2 days, maybe 9, yeah.
First night we got into our SPX hotel room.
On the road.
We dropped our shit off, then went straight to Politics and Prose, one of the coolest bookstores around. Then we came back and we laid in bed together and talked about Green Lantern for a long time.
No, actually, for full disclosure, what happened was we had sex. I don't mean that. It sounded like I was going that way.
Doesn't it?
No, we...
Which is natural. It's a natural journey for us.
We were having a very serious conversation about not growing out of things, but like aspects of holding on to what influenced us when we were kids in terms of comics and superheroes.
Yeah.
And like I was talking about how I have so many comic book T-shirts, and how I kind of realized not too long ago I don't really need to buy anymore. I don't have a problem wearing them, but there's a shift, and part of me was like, should I feel guilty? Like I'm like, oh, I'm growing out of that, and I'm obviously not. We don't have to relay the entire conversation, but we were having a very serious conversation about it. Within 5 to 6 minutes, Austin was retelling the entire 80s Green Lantern to me, and I was asking, wait, so Parallax wasn't this?
David, he was seriously like, my comic book shirts, like, they represent a part of my character, and
it was a very, very deep conversation.
And then he was like, wait, Kyle Rayner's mask was always that dumb? And then that was where we went from there.
Yeah.
So as you might have known that we were going to Small Press Expo, you might not have, but we did, and we're there right now in our hotel room
in Bethesda, Maryland.
Bethesda, Maryland, yeah. And listener Will Fish is standing right next to us.
You might know him on Twitter at Will Fish.
Is it Will_Fish?
I don't think so.
No, just Will Fish. Yeah. We met Will at this show last year.
We actually woke up this morning and he was just sitting at the end of our bed.
He was.
We were like,
it wasn't creepy at all.
We were like, are you Will Fish? He was like, I am.
Yes,
we were like, it's so great to meet you, man.
He goes, I am the one known as Fish. No, we've told the story before. You know, we're walking down the aisle and this guy was like, Hideous Energy, and David pissed and was like, oh my God, don't hurt me.
Don't shoot us,
please don't hurt us. So we talked to him, and we like struck up a friendship, and we've talked to him on Twitter a bunch since then, and he's been a super awesome supporter of the show. So we knew when we were coming to the show this year we were going to hang out with him again, and we hung out with him last night, and he's standing here now listening while we do this weird thing.
Say hello, Will.
Yeah.
It's his catchphrase.
That is.
It actually is.
No, I mean, it's a good one, too.
Yeah, that is.
So I think that right there is one of the reasons that I love this show, and it's something that represents the show in my mind is...
What, people saying fish?
Yes. It's weird
very specific.
catchphrases. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I would never have known that had we not come here this weekend.
SPX doesn't even know it, but I want to tell them. No, it's just how connected you feel to the industry when you're here, and how not like accessible people are, because that makes it sound like in other places they're
at C2E2
like
people
bodyguards.
are dicks.
They're not dicks at C2E2, but there's so many people at C2E2, and it's such a large con.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm always going to a con and I'm like, all right, time to meet as many people as I can.
Oh no.
But that's a fun aspect of it. Like normally, your and I, our aim is, we want to find as many awesome comics as we can.
Yeah.
And this is a show that's very different than C2E2.
SPX.
Yes, SPX is very different, and most different. It's different than most of the other cons that we go to, which there's not a lot of them.
Yeah.
But like meeting Will, and getting to meet like Jesse Lonergan last year, literally that was the first time we'd ever heard of Jesse's work.
Yeah.
We'd ever seen any of it, and now it's some of our favorite stuff. We got to meet him and hang out with him again, and Suburbia was here.
We did bag Lonergan,
awesome.
by the way, but then we didn't record last night.
We did bag
so we
Lonergan.
let him out of the bag.
We let him out of the bag. I think it was partially because after the show, like the show runs from it's like seriously like 11 to 7,
Yeah.
or some fucking bananas shit like that.
Oh, that's exactly what it is.
That's SPX's official tagline.
That's bananas.
No, bananas shit.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Look, man, you're not allowed to come here next year.
I know.
I want you to fix it.
I didn't feel like I should anyway. I didn't feel worthy enough.
That's good. I'm glad you know. No, but like you're on the floor 11 to 7, and I'm talking about like Lonergan.
Yeah.
Someone that we have bagged.
Yeah.
Like being on the floor from 11 to 7, my guess is you don't want to then be like, all right, let's sit down and let's put some headphones on.
Yeah, and I mean everybody. SPX is a unique con too in the sense that they have
yeah.
the Ignatz Awards, and those are fan voted, and so they have that ceremony around like 9:30, and then basically everyone hangs out.
Yeah.
Like so, and it's not. It's obviously it's a ton of creative talent, so writers
Yeah.
and artists and editors and whatever else. But then it's not. Like, we didn't get in because we were pressed. Like, you can just go hang out.
Oh, no, yeah, they don't check badges or anything.
Yeah.
You literally walk there. And then the much-lauded chocolate fountains, we actually saw them this year.
Oh, yeah, there are two of them.
Man, are they gross-looking.
They're not gross looking. It's the like
The concept of it?
it's like the communal act of
Us all dipping things in chocolate.
well, I didn't click until you were like, this is actually really gross, and I looked over, and right when I looked over, I saw a woman who had accidentally put maybe her entire finger into the fountain and then lick it off, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. That's really gross.
I think that's when we were standing with Jesse and Will, and someone was like, that fountain is like 80% crotch.
20% crotch. Yeah.
There's a lot more crotch in that chocolate fountain than there should be.
Yeah.
Which is not a sentence I normally say, because I want there to be a certain aspect of crotch.
Crotch to chocolate.
Yeah, I want the crotch to chocolate ratio to be a little bit
to be
more
healthy.
even. Yeah. So we had a cool time last night, and we have to go to the show again still today.
Yeah.
With almost $0. So if
last night we crunched some numbers, and I was like, hey man, we can either eat.
Yep.
Or we can drive home and not eat. We can't do both. We're going to be digging into our own pockets.
Well, also, another full disclosure thing, just so you know us better as people.
Yeah. We put our crotches in that chocolate fountain.
You guys
SPX has a right to know
if you were here
that we tainted their fountain with our taints.
You now have a piece of hideous energy. Well, our plan originally was with our money was to buy as many. Well, we were buying food and gas and stuff with our money, but then we were like, all right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna budget it in a way so when we get back we can buy Grand Theft Auto 5, which didn't happen. No. That's not gonna happen.
I was like, we were sitting in the car, and I was like, all right, man, I've got good news and bad news. And then he was like, what's the bad news? And I was like, we definitely can't buy Grand Theft Auto 5. And a second later, I was like, actually, now that I think about it, not only can we not do that, but we can't eat and get home. It's kind of all bad news.
It's time to choose. Do you want to go home, or do you want to live in Rockville, Maryland?
Well, so we get here yesterday. We went to Politics and Pros. Actually, day before yesterday.
Day before yesterday.
Time has lost all.
It has.
All meaning.
It has.
And then, we got back, cradled each other in our one bed in our hotel room.
Which was our choice, because it's a king size.
To cuddle, you mean?
Yes.
Because they messed up the room. We were supposed to have 2 beds. And she was like, there's one king-size bed. I was like, it should be 2. And she was like, oh, no, it's not. And then almost immediately I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Never. Just give me the keys.
Sometimes, David, you just have to listen to the universe's messages.
I was like, that's fine. Whatever.
You have to do what the universe wants.
I'm sure that at some point there will be boners touching each other. And not in a very aggressively sexual way, but I've woken up before just spooning you and been like,
boner to ass.
There's some boners somewhere in this mess under the covers.
In my head, all I could think of is there will be boners.
That's the tagline of SPX, I guess, this year.
There will be boners.
There will be boners.
I almost wish we were different.
Or crotch chocolate. SPX 2013.
Oh, I think someone said Diet Hitler also.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a memorable one.
Yeah. So we left. So yesterday morning, we unfortunately, it's a story not worth telling because it's long and not really that funny. But it is funny to note that if you were to look at our expense report, there are 2 separate charges for Krispy Kreme donuts.
There are.
Before we get to the con, and almost immediately meet Amy Gaskin, we've been super awesome friends with her on Twitter. She does the Razor Bloom webcomic that I do with her. She writes and illustrates it. So I had no idea. I don't think either of us did that she lived nearby.
I didn't know
relatively close.
I didn't know she lived close enough that she could get here that quickly, which is a 2-hour drive for her.
Yeah.
Which, just so we know, it was an 8.5-hour drive for us, so we win.
Yeah, there's not a contest there.
No,
it's 4 times.
No, we're the Warriors.
Quattro times.
Yeah.
So we hung out with her and kind of bombed around the con for a little bit. I'm trying to remember. Everything is. It's hard for me to focus.
No, I know you. If you've listened to the show, you know that last year was an awesome show for us, but it was also kind of a unique experience. We had the Ribbon C minis, we had the Reproduct minis that we were handing out,
and also I stood in line for 2 or 3 different signings,
last year,
which took up time. Yeah, and this year everything kind of seems like a blur.
Last year we knew
got that con haze.
That's it. It is the con haze. Last year we knew almost no one. And that changed immediately.
Yeah,
we've talked to various people who have said that's how this show is. You come one year, and even if you're not tabling or you're not a creator or a professional,
that's a professional term, kids. Tabling.
Oh, sorry.
It means to have a table.
No, it means to stand on a table and pretend you're surfing. SPX is
you stand on a table
place.
and pretend you're a table.
Yeah.
That's very specific.
It's weird. No, you meet people every year, and it's this cumulative thing. I'm sure it happens at other cons too, but because of the nature of the sizes of the cons, at SPX, this year we came in here and immediately, we knew more people than we did last year, which does not mean anything about our importance because we're fucking idiots, obviously, with our crotch chocolate talk.
No, idiots or geniuses. We won't know until 20 years from now.
What did you just say?
Idiots or geniuses?
Oh.
We won't know.
Okay.
We can't know now.
I didn't hear that.
I know what the world thinks.
Well.
And there's a 10% chance they could be wrong.
No, there's a couple of weird things that happened. I reblogged this picture of it's this picture of 2 people making out in a library. It's a picture that Jim Rugg drew for the cover of Foxing Quarterly, this literary magazine. And I saw that they had a booth, and it was right next to Jesse Lonergan's booth. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm going to buy that because I reblogged that picture. And then it got 3,000 reblogs from my Tumblr. So I was there talking to the people about it. and I was like, oh yeah, I posted a picture of this on my Tumblr, and they go, oh, you're that guy? And I was like, man, this ain't funny. Like, I don't appreciate this. And they were like, no, you got us some sales. And I was like, what? I expect for this to be free now.
I was going to say, you should have been like, oh, this is obviously mine now, right?
Yeah, thank you. I assumed that
in case you're confused, I will not be handing you any money.
I assume I now have a controlling ownership in Fox and Quarterly. No, but I bought the issue, and then actually the guy gave me a free little notebook because I told him that his notebook looked good. Literally, they weren't things they were selling at all. He just had another notebook, and he was like, here, you can have this one.
Oh. He probably needs that notebook today.
Yeah, I'm going to go check and be like...
It's like, where's that bald douchebag that helped us?
That fucker who thinks he's special because he knows how to run Tumblr. It's a really...
He's probably stopped 6 other bald people that look like you. This con seriously looks like a clone factory of Austin. There's so many bald people with, like, dark rim glasses. Like Will is another bald dude with glasses.
If Will's glasses were a little thicker, he probably would look almost just
like
me.
I've almost talked to you 6 different times and it wasn't you. Where I was like, oh, there's Austin. I was like, man, he's cracking up at something. And I was like, oh, it's not him. It's crazy, dude.
That's what I think. Amy said that, or she would see a bunch of bald people.
Yeah. Together.
She has a
coven.
Yeah, she sees gangs of bald gentlemen carousing. It's a strange convention. You want to run down all the stuff that we got?
Sure.
I guess I'll start since I was the one who brought it up. Like I said, I got Fox and Quarterly with a Jim Rugg cover. It was volume. I think it's the very first one actually.
It's volume 1, issue 1.
Yeah. I'm pretty pumped to read it because when I saw it online, the picture that Jim Rugg drew is fucking amazing. I'm not as into him as David is, but I
love the cover and I love the design in the book.
The design of it is all really fucking awesome. It looks like there might be some content in it that might either go above my head or just really piss me off.
I'm guessing the latter, based off of what I read.
But it's one of those things
that's one of my favorite things of being friends with you now is I always know the stuff that's gonna really piss you off.
Well, like we were looking at something Will got, and
he was like, this guy drew this comic without panels, and I started cracking up immediately. I was like, oh, I bet you hate that, Austin. Like it's not that you obviously haven't read it, so you're not like that's awful and I hate it. But it's just like I know the like little ticks that like I know will start like it's basically like punching your temper right in the crotch where you're just like, oh no. Well, you can start to feel it.
I know exactly what you mean because if somebody's like, this guy drew his comic without panels, my immediate thought is to be like, that motherfucker didn't do a comic.
That's not a comic and also not art. That guy should die.
That guy filled some pages with just pictures. That's a sketchbook, man. But also, I'm learning. I'm learning to be a different person. And then I got it's called Versus by Alexis Sotil and Joe Infernari. Joe's art is some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
He does that book Time Fucker, which we're always really funny about.
My first
we're not funny.
My first sentence to him was, hey, man, I really like your stuff. He was like, yeah. And I was like, you probably don't remember me. He's like, no, I do. You guys have a podcast, right? You were with, like, a tall, bald guy? And I was like, yeah. Actually, yes.
When I stepped up to the booth after you had talked to Joe, he was like, yeah, you guys are really big supporters of Time Fucker. I was like, there's no sentence that I like to hear about myself more than that. You're a, like, staunch Time Fucker supporter. And then I got a comic by B. Sabo.
That's a comic?
This thing in my hand is a postcard.
I thought it was.
But the comic's underneath.
I was like, if you don't think something with panels is a comic, that postcard's going to make you really mad.
Look, man, I understand art. No, it's her name's B. Sabo. The art drew my eye over. It's gorgeous stuff. The comic's called Those Who Travel Alone. And I looked it up, and I think she does all of the coloring herself, everything herself, and it is fucking gorgeous. As soon as I saw it, I picked it up, and I think the single issue was like $2. So I went over to it immediately. And her website on this card is allnightcomic.com, but then also bsabo, SABO.com. So check that stuff out. I haven't read any of it yet. I don't really know what it's about, but her art and coloring it was immediately eye-catching. So if you want to see some cool-looking stuff, check that out. You might like the story, too. I don't know yet. I got Cyanide Milkshake number 5 by Liz Suburbia because I'm a giant Suburbia fanboy. And I got a commission by Suburbia. I always love getting commissions from her because I know I'm going to like them. And I told her to do a warrior librarian, and that's what she drew. She drew this badass librarian in a cardigan with a giant fucking greatsword, and then a dude's head cut off in front of her. I'll post a picture of it, but I'm going to describe it to you in minute detail.
Oh, is that the thing you pulled out of your book and was like, oh, good, I wanted to bend this corner?
Yeah.
I see why you're mad now.
As some kind of fucking dickhead would do.
Well, I mean, in a frame, you're not going to be able to tell. But...
No, I put it in between the smart cover of my iPad and my iPad, thinking, hey, this will protect it. Didn't do it, man.
No.
I failed.
Yeah.
But I can still
it's not
see.
Designed for that.
I can still see the picture. Then I got Working on the End of the Fucking World by Charles Forsman. It's the zine that he did. I think it's specifically he did it for SPX. I'm not really sure, but it's the process of him creating the new graphic novel, mini comic, whatever they're calling it, The End of the Fucking World. Published by Fantagraphics, which is a book that's been on my radar for a little bit now, and I really, really want to read it. Obviously, I can't buy it at the show now because I have no more fucking money. But I'm super pumped to read this because it's about his process and how he got to create the graphic novel. So I'm really pumped for that. It's only I think it was $3. And then I got what the fuck? We Were Like Ghosts. Well, it's a little mini comic that reads one way. It's like that issue of Trillium, and you flip it over and it reads another way. It's got 2 stories in it. So when you flip it over, the words on the cover don't make any sense because they're like printed differently. What's it say?
We Ghosts Were Like.
Yeah, that's what I read first, and my head was like, I forget that dude's name. I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah, you are, man.
Thanks, man.
I don't actually see it in here.
Really?
There's a signature. It looks like Jim Brinkman.
Well, that's his fault then.
Is that his name?
It's not Jim Brinkman. He was tabling with Fred Chow, or Fred Chow was tabling with him.
Jamie Tanner.
Jamie Tanner.
That was close.
I like his art a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
He did a little.
He
sketch.
seems like a smart guy too.
We're talking to him after the Ignatz with a dude. I wish I could remember the name, but he used to do the indie spinner.
It's Phil
Spinner Rack. Was that the name of the podcast?
Yeah, Phil something.
We got a chance to talk to them, and they were talking to us about Anders Nilsson, which I was a giant fucking asshole about. Because they were like, Anders Nilsson, and I was like, snore. I didn't do that, obviously, but...
And I was like, I named my cat after him. I didn't say that. I should have, though.
And then we were like, we have podcasts.
Yeah. What did that dude say? That Phil guy? I didn't hear what he said.
About what?
Because Fred Chow was like, he said something about he stopped doing the... Did he say, like, podcasts are dead or something?
Phil? No.
What did he say?
He said it's only do it if you still have fun.
Well, no, before that. Because then Fred was like, oh, yeah, it's a warning. Like, your days are numbered or whatever. Like, he was joking.
I think he might have said, like, everything dies or something.
Did he say something that weighty? Maybe?
No, he seriously did say, like, everything goes away eventually.
What?
And I was like,
we need to go help this guy.
I was like, don't tell us that, man. We have a podcast. And he goes, oh, just make sure.
Well, no, because I went with it and was
fun.
joking. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm always surprised whenever we do another episode. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
But the whole time, that entire conversation was predicated on a sentence I didn't hear.
It was loud. Everybody shrieking at each other.
I just screamed the whole time.
It was actually pretty terrifying.
People in each other's faces.
Then I got Farrell Dalrymple's book, The Graphic and Sequential Work of Farrell Dalrymple. It's
called Delusional.
Delusional. I don't call it that.
Yeah, use your eyes.
It's a compilation of short comics and art stuff that he's mostly posted on his blog before. I know there's some stuff that Fish pointed out in here that he had done. I think it was like a CBLDF drive, some Sandman images that he had drawn. I love Farrell's work, so that was one of the things that we picked up. I think you got it too. And then he gave us a little collection of prints that tell a sequential story, and they look fucking awesome. I think that's all the stuff I got. I'm going to stand up and kind of look around to see if I can find anything else. David, why don't you talk so I can stop?
I got a compilation of punk rock comics that Liz Suburbia did a centerfold in called As You Were.
I'm so pissed off that you got that and I didn't. How much is that?
$5.
Can I buy it off of you?
No, I got.
If I give you $5, you can buy another comic.
I'll go buy that again. That's the dumbest.
Why would you buy that again? You could get something else.
I bought that though. Are you stupid? How dumb are you?
This is way meaner than I was expecting.
I didn't expect you to be so dumb. Read this so I don't have to say it out loud. What is this that I have in my hand?
Time Fucker number 2.
By Joan Finari. These prints by Farrell Dalrymple. I got a copy of Fred Child's Allison and the Rainy Day Robot, which was his Kickstarter book that he did a while back. I got Cyanide Milkshake by Suburbia. Marathon by, I don't know how you say his first name. Is it Boaz?
Bose.
It's the dude who directed Remember the Titans. He's a screenwriter, too. He wrote it, and Joan Finari illustrated it about the runner at Marathon, which I've picked up at DCBS like 4 different times, but it's from First Second. But he had it as...
picked up to look at. Picked up makes it sound like you bought it.
Yeah, no, I didn't buy it.
You own that book 5 times now.
And
you just love marathons.
And Finari gave me a sweet deal on it. I think that might be everything I've bought so far. I haven't bought a whole lot of stuff. I learned my lesson last year with SPX to not buy.
We both kind of learned a lesson last year.
I bought a lot of stuff last year, which I got back to the hotel and was like, this is really cool. And it's just a bunch of circles.
Well,
like, there's no substance to it.
That's one of the things you have to, I don't want to say like kind of look out for, although.
I mean, you do if narrative is something that's important to you, which I'm not being douchey. Like,
well, no, if you want narrative, you need to make sure you're looking at the right stuff.
There's a lot of amazing art at this con, but
I know Fish got some stuff that is either completely narrative-less, but he was talking about, which we'll get to the stuff that he bought here in a second.
Yeah, everything he bought
a fuckload of stuff
has amazing art, and like it's. I mean, we don't have to get super into it, but it's all my.
Well, no, what we're saying,
hang-ups,
what we're saying is he's not doing it right.
He did a bad job. He wasted a lot of money. Will.
Well, no, last year like we would buy mini comics. This year, I think you and I focused more on finding something where the length of the comic, the content of the comic, and the price of the comic met in this like middle zone where we knew the length of time we were going to be able to interact with the comic was longer than some of the stuff that we bought last year. Because I bought some stuff last year where I was like, oh man, I read this in a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And now I'm not going to read it again.
And that's totally fine. Like people really dig on mini comics, and I think they're so cool too. But I'm definitely the type of personality that I want a book that I'm gonna be able to get into and I can put on my shelf and whatever else. And I have a closet full of mini comics from last year that like I can't put.
I think
it's like a bunch of papers. Basically.
If you figure out a way to not like showcase them, oh maybe that showcase them. Why don't you stop being a fucking whiny bitch?
I just don't like it.
I feel like if it wasn't this early in the day, I might have curbed my insult.
It's just that I don't like it as much. That's what I'm saying. It's just a personal preference.
Before we go to get Fisha's stuff, I think you need to tell the story about March, the top shelf book.
Oh, I bought March before. I bought it a couple weeks ago at DCBS, and it's written by John Lewis, who's a congressman.
It's co-written.
Yeah, that the other dude, Andrew Iden, he didn't write. It's John Lewis is basically his autobiography. He like basically helped translate it into comic book form.
Yeah.
But he didn't co-write his life story. I mean, it's his life. But they did the script and stuff, and then Nate Powell illustrated it. That's when it originally came on my radar. Was because of Nate Powell.
Yeah, you love Nate Powell.
And
you know that, right?
Yeah, thanks, man.
You're welcome.
So I bought it and really, really liked it. It's volume 1 of 3. It's going to be a trilogy, and it's about civil rights and the sit-ins and the marches and like basically his life from when he was a really young kid,
50s and 60s,
up until he's like in his 20s. Like it's not his whole story because it's only the first third.
And on the back, it's got a blurb from President Bill Clinton, so you know it's like it's not a book to be taken lightly. And I'm not saying that just because Clinton's got a fucking blurb on it, but it's a weighty subject.
Yeah. But that was the only thing I brought this year to get signed because all 3 of them were here. So I don't know. It was weird. It was a pretty surreal experience because I didn't know who this dude was. Like, I'm not political at all. So, I mean, and I'm also obviously not that well informed in terms of American history, because it wasn't a name that rang a bell for me immediately. I know he is for a lot of people, but it was strange standing in line, because it was like, I don't know, like the part of me that gets the con is like, oh, sweet Nate Powell. But then when I got up there and I talked to Nate Powell for a while about Indiana, because he lives in Bloomington.
We always do that. Like, whenever we're at a con and Nate Powell's there, we're like, Indiana, man, right? He's like, yeah.
And
corn.
Then that Andrew Aiden dude, talked to him for a little bit. And then, yeah, John Lewis signed it, and it was, I don't know. It's kind of weird talking about it, because I don't have, like, I didn't have any prior connection to his story.
Other than the book.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, prior to reading the book. I didn't have any connection with him. And it was a book that I really, really liked a lot. And when I read it, like, I don't know, it's weird. It's not to say it didn't mean anything to me. It did. But for whatever reason, when I was standing in front of him, it was hard for me to talk.
Yeah. But previously,
like, emotionally, it hit me pretty hard that this dude, this congressman who's, like, done so much work and change, is at this comic book convention.
Yeah.
And so I was like, thanks for coming here, man. Like, that's really crazy.
Well, the previous night, as you and I were in bed together, in between discussing Green Lantern and growing out of comic book shirts and stuff, one of the things we talked about was, like, what you say to creators when you're at a convention, you're going up to get something signed, like, how you interact with them, because, you know, you don't want to be creepy, but you want to. Obviously, they're meeting a ton of people, and they're not. It's not necessarily like you're going to be like, my name's David Clarence Hopkins, and then next year they're going to be like, DCH. They're going to know you. But in this case, David was like, I don't really know, like, how to interact with this guy.
Well, I knew there was going to be, and I was right, a lot of people in line who, or I assumed, I didn't know, but I assumed there was going to be a lot of people in line who, like, this dude has impacted and meant so much to them for either their entire lives or a long time.
Yeah.
Like, there was people in front of me and behind me that were, like, going to buy the comic. Like, they hadn't read it yet.
Really?
Like, they were there to see John Lewis.
Yeah.
And I it's not that I felt guilty getting it signed, but, like, it's just that part of me that was kind of like, I mean, who am I? Like, I bought this book, I mean, at first, like, 80% because of Nate Powell.
Yeah.
So for me to get it signed by him, I didn't feel false, but I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I know what you mean.
It's like this guy has, like, literally impacted people's entire lives and history, and for me to be like, hey, this is a great comic, man.
Well,
like,
no, I
felt really hollow.
Which is weird.
Luckily, when I got up there and almost started crying, it kind of hit me.
Well, see, I think that's probably one of the reasons why the comic is. It's important for a lot of reasons, obviously. But one of the things you and I were talking about is how this comic is probably, or maybe even definitely, going to reach people who might not have normally been affected by this story or had some kind of connection to this story. And I think that's absolutely what happened with you.
Yeah, and that's why he wanted to do it in comic book form. Some dude in front of me, he wrote at some point a prose autobiography. It's thick.
John Lewis did?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he didn't have to do this. I mean, he didn't have to do it to begin with, but after I saw that, I was like, oh, this dude really didn't have to do a comic book about his life in terms of, like, getting the story out there, because he had an autobiography, like a thick autobiography. But in the comic, in March, in book 1, he talks about basically getting his hands on this Martin Luther King Jr. comic book, and how that was, I think, I'm trying to remember, I'm pretty sure that was, like, the first time he'd ever heard of him, or, like, that's how he learned about his life.
Yeah.
And meeting Martin Luther King Jr. kind of sets a different course on his life and changes the direction of where he's going. And that I saw him on, I think it was a Colbert Report, and he was like, why do this as a comic book? And he was like, because I found this comic when I was a kid, and it literally changed my entire life in terms of where I went and what I did with my life. It was because of this comic book. And so I know the power that can have, and I wanted to basically go in that same route. So it's pretty cool, because I don't know if Top Shelf reprinted them or if someone else did and they had copies, but they had a lot of copies of that Martin Luther King Jr. comic book that you could buy there at the booth too. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, after I found David literally, like, right before he was getting ready to get his stuff signed by Nate Powell and then go through the line, and then I was standing with Amy Gaskin, and then after David gets through the line, he was like, I didn't really expect it to affect me like that. And I was like, what, man? He was like, I don't know that I can talk about it right now.
I was like, let's keep walking.
So David like walks off, like biting his tears back, and then Amy and I are immediately just like making fun of him.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's how we do. So now we're gonna run down all of the stuff that Will Fish got, which is a lot of things. So, David, I think you have a better... Well, the first two things in front of me that Will got was by this girl named F. Lee. It's a comic called Justice is Nocturnal, and then Wolf Wears Wool, Scream of the South. And this stuff looks really fucking good. I like the coloring in this a lot, and the art. And then I think he got Optic Nerve 13, too.
Did you buy that here? We bought it to get signed. Yeah,
Oh.
Tomine's here.
Never mind, he didn't buy that here.
I don't... Do they sell... Are they selling those at John and Corley's booth?
Yeah, they have them there.
Oh, do they?
I saw them. I didn't see Tomine there.
Next up, he got Lose by Koyama Press. This book has made a ton of waves here at the con. Like Michael DeForge does it, and he also did a book called Only Human, I think is the name.
I think so, yeah.
Which I'm probably going to buy today. I'm finally going to cave. I've almost bought it like 6 other times, including other times here at Politics and Prose. I almost got it too.
Wait, what? The other one?
Yeah, the little graphic novel. No, not Lose. I want to get Lose too. It won. I know he won Best Artist, and he also won. I think it was Best Ongoing Series or Best Continuing Series or something like that for Lose specifically. I've never read anything by him. I know I'm rolling the dice. His art is amazing.
It's really, really good art.
It's very, very surreal. So I'm hoping that I can read it, and I'm not just like... There is a part where in the comic, I saw a page where there's a bunch of animals that have a boy's face, and then on the next page it has the boy in human form flipping them off. So
at least those pages.
That's funny.
Yeah, at least those pages are for you.
And I may pick that up.
I like his stuff. It's got sort of like a Box Brown, like meets Klaus, meets like Chris Ware.
Yeah, but all those dudes
also,
are clean, so it's way dirtier.
What do you mean? Dirtier like content or like line work?
Both. I don't know. That stuff doesn't really look like dirty in terms of content.
Yeah.
It has a if you kind of mix all those dudes, but then add a huge helping of like surreal.
No, like
because all those guys are pretty traditional.
I think here is this is not it. I'm going to read a panel to you from this Lose issue. Hopefully, I'm not spoiling it for you, Will. 1982. Archduke Tariq Elgin performs cunnilingus on his wife Samantha Elgin. So it's a guy performing cunnilingus, but his head is the shape of an onion, and then his wife looks to be made out of it's like maybe like fishnets. Then potentially her legs are fish, and then some like tree branches, and then she has this kind of collar on that might be made out of amoeba. So.
It's nightmares.
That's what you're going to be getting.
She's drawn out of nightmares.
That's what you're going to be getting if you want to read Lose.
Will also picked up Marathon by Bose Yankin and
Joe Infernari.
Brought Johnny Hero to get signed by Fred Chow. This book called Frontier. I don't know if this is by.
Man, the art in it is fucking sweet.
Is it in there? Oh, okay. Uno Morales. You said he's Russian? Yeah, he's a Russian dude. His art is this like Oregon Trail pixelated, just like jizz fest. Like it seriously is so good.
That's a really gross way for you to describe that art.
It's not my finest moment, but it's how I felt.
Okay.
Anyways, this jizz fest.
It is like Commodore 64 sort of pixel art.
Yeah.
I would love to know how he does it.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's pixel. If it is pixel art, then
that's what it looks like.
Well, no. It obviously looks like pixel art, but in terms of making it,
it's not 8-bit.
Well, if he made it pixel by pixel, that dude has more patience than anyone in the world.
Probably.
Because this stuff is it doesn't look like 8-bit.
He also might be a computer.
I mean, he could be. He wasn't here, was he? Yeah, Will said he wasn't here. That guy's a computer.
That guy does.
He's an IBM supercomputer.
Not a human. Yeah. Uno, what was his last name? Uno Morales?
2000 is his last name.
Yeah, 2000. He's not a human.
His name's Uno 10.6.8. I actually saw him play against Ken Jennings on Jeopardy one time.
Uno Morales?
Yeah, that robot. The computer program.
They gave him a fake face and everything to make him feel more human.
And he won. Also a book called Horde by Gerald Dye. This book has amazing art.
Yeah, it does.
He's got the color scheme, like Austin was saying earlier, is reminiscent of the first issue of Reproduct.
We expect a check.
But it reminds me, the use that he has of shadow and of negative space and light looks a lot, to me it reminds me a lot of, what's that guy's name? Chris Somney.
Yeah.
His art doesn't really look a whole lot like Chris Somney, but
No.
the way it's weird, like, this dude's in a dark cave throughout the entire thing. And you can tell it's dark, but you can see everything.
Yeah,
he has a unique.
He's using shadows to define even the light areas. He's like using
The
negative
walls
space. It's really, really good looking stuff.
Yeah, it is. Here's the book that doesn't have panels that Austin is gonna probably beat up Will for buying.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a really big dick about it.
I think it's by Patrick Kyle. Is that right? Yeah, Patrick Kyle.
That stuff looks kind of box brownish too.
That stuff looks like Ivan Brunetti and Chris Ware to me.
Well, he'll do those things where it's like this person is made out of a half circle and then a smushed circle and then like that's a nose maybe.
I think that comic looks really cool in terms of a design sense. I have no idea how I would read it, which might be the point. Like,
I don't know that you can read this,
or like I don't know where I would go, which I think is probably his intent.
When you say there's no panels, like there's no gutters. But you can see where a panel is formed.
Yeah.
Just by where one image ends and the next begins. Like there's a natural line that happens in between panels. It's very, very spare. Where like I think this is a bird with a circle for a head.
That's all I draw, birds. Can I do this? Am I an artist?
You draw one of these today, and then let me look at it, and I'll tell you.
It just looks like a manic, like John Doe journal. I'm like, check out my graphic novel, man.
Oh, that's good.
This book I'm actually pretty excited to check out. It's called Burnt by Thane Frederick Benson.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's that Thane dude. First of all, his first name is Badass.
Yeah.
He did that comic that Amy picked up something by Thane, too. Didn't he have the map? Wasn't he the same guy?
Yeah.
He did this awesome map that it's on the back of his The Clockwork Knight mini comic. It's this like big map that it's numbered and it shows this character going through this adventure. It's this giant image of all these like castles and monsters, and it's really, really detailed stuff, and it's really cool looking.
Burnt is about Lucifer getting killed, right? Yeah. And then the investigation into who did
Hitler,
it.
or Hitler. Jesus.
Who killed? Not Jesus either. You're very confused.
Who killed Hitler, Jesus?
Who killed Lucifer? It's got an awesome premise. The art's cool. It's kind of cartoony, like in a sense, like the way he's drawing the characters. Like it doesn't look all ages, but it's got like a younger feel to the art. But then I mean, like there's a naked demon with giant tits, so I mean, don't let your kids read it.
Depending on what you.
If your kids like giant naked tit demons, let them read it.
Yeah, if that's their bag,
they're gonna love it.
This is the comic for them.
Split Lip is a book. It's a horror comic. Does it have in the front like their full names? Because it has their last names on the cover.
This is the one when
Sam Costello, Sammy Mackinson, and then Nelson Evergreen.
Fish told us the premise of this one, and David and I were both like, "Oh my god!"
I want to read it, but I also kind of want to destroy it so that no one can ever touch it.
The premise is this kid was younger, like a 10, 12, 13-year-old or something. He was using his ham radio. So this is back in the 70s or whatever. And he is contacting people on his ham radio, and one of the people he contacts is Ed Gein.
Well, he's like talking to a dude, and then you find out it's Ed Gein.
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to read it. That sounds too scary.
Because they allowed Ed Gein to use the ham radio in prison. What the fuck
I don't understand
were they
that.
thinking?
I wonder if we can let him kill some more people somehow.
Well, yeah, like this famous murderer who just loves killing.
Give him contacts to the outside world.
Let's give this guy a Twitter account.
Look, Ed, we're gonna give you this knife. Promise us you won't do anything with it.
Just set this down.
You can have it,
down.
but just don't use it. Okay.
Look at it, touch it, even, but don't do anything with it.
Then he bought a book called Love Stories by Matt Tate. Matt Tate. It's got one of the most awesome and terrifying covers I've ever seen.
It's pretty scary. Inside there looks like there's it's got like, that's a vulva. I just saw a fucking hairy vulva.
It's got, yep, I see it. No, it's a baby coming out.
So my stance is that's what that is.
Well, like you see a hairy baby head right there.
Well, I mean, that's vagina.
Do you know what a
hair up
vagina
there.
looks like?
I don't want to go into this.
And the art in it is awesome as well.
It is. It's got some like a Charles Burns-ish feel.
Yeah.
A lot of it looks sort of woodcut. Also, it would make me feel kind of dirty, but also sort of scared about what I'm going to do that day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very scary sentence,
Isn't it? Then this is I'm pretty excited about reading this at some point. David and I are actually pretty pissed that Will would show us some of these things because now we want to go get them. We don't have money to do it.
Well, I might buy that. I still have money to spend.
Do you?
Yeah.
Why don't you fuck off?
Okay. I'm not going to buy it now.
Thank you. That was my intent.
Okay.
I'm happy it came across. This one's called Look Straight Ahead. It's by Elaine M. Will, published by Cuckoo's Nest Press. It's about a kid, 17-year-old kid. He has a mental breakdown, and I think he ends up being bipolar.
Yeah.
It looks
Good.
fucking amazing. The art in it caught my eye immediately, and then when I found out what it was about, it's something that I absolutely have a lot of interest in reading. So if David buys it, I'm going to read it.
You're not. That sucks. You're not going to.
I am, you fucker.
No, you will not be reading it.
Then last thing that Will bought is Last Train to Old Town by Keenan Rubenstein. And it is very pretty.
Yeah, I want to rub my face on it. Don't hand it to me. I will.
If you go to lasttraintoldtown.com, you can check out some of this stuff. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
It's laid out like a webcomic. So I don't know if he formatted it and it is a webcomic because we haven't been to the website yet. But the art is it's so amazing. The details in the background. Some of them almost look like he's using photo reference or just like illustrating over photos, but I don't think he is.
I don't think he is either. I think it's full illustrations that he's turning the opacity down a little bit to where the backgrounds are very, very detailed and pretty, but he does it in such a way where he colors and adds way more weight to the people in the frames,
Yeah.
so that they stand out really hard against the backgrounds.
Well, the backgrounds have this like sort of monochromatic, almost like spearmint color, and then in the foregrounds, most of the people are full color, and his figures are very spare. He's using very minimal lines to render faces and body language, but all of the emotions come across perfectly, and I'm very fucking jealous that Will has this book and I don't.
I'm going to buy this too and not let you read it.
Are you?
Yep.
Man, I'm not.
Let me know all the stuff you see today that you like, because
yeah.
I will have it in my home.
I'm going to immediately punch you in the dick.
I was hoping for something a little more clever, but
No, as I got into...
I did say the phrase jizz fest earlier, so I can't really throw too many stones.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I feel like we've reached a good place here where we know who we are. So, yeah, SPX, one of our favorite conventions, always an awesome and pleasant experience. The people who run Small Press Expo are some of the most pleasant and accommodating people we've ever come in contact with as far as conventions go, because we are fucking no one.
And also maybe the most attractive people ever, according to their Twitter feed. Because I tweeted about seeing maybe the most attractive man I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And standing in a line. And I was like, he looks like a gentler, I forgot the dude's name.
It's like Chris Hemsworth.
Chris
right?
Hemsworth. And
I
was like, I'm at SPX. Like, I tagged their name in it.
Well, you went further than that, too, man. You were like, I would let him cradle me.
Yeah. And they tweeted back, and they're like, that actually could be me, just saying.
Yeah.
So potentially, SPX Twitter feed is run by a gentle god of my dreams.
Yeah. Which, speaking of, we saw Michel Fiffe, too, and that dude's fucking handsome.
Yeah, he is.
Not only is he's got awesome glasses.
I'm pretty sure that within the comics industry, they have taken some type of Greek god and been like, all right, we need one for California.
Yeah.
And it was Stephen Christie.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we need one for New York, and it was Michel Fiffe.
Michel Fiffe.
So I'm assuming every state has just the most handsome, awesome comics dude that's always going to make us feel inferior, both creatively and physically. So we got to interject here for a second. I just realized that we were going to try to cut in here and record after the fact of recording in the SPX hotel room some stuff about Michel Fiffe and about his work.
Yeah.
I just realized that the audio is probably going to sound a lot different because we're in a different room with the air conditioner on. So it's
Yeah.
going to sound very, very edited. So let's just admit to it. What happened was in the hotel room is we talked about Michelle Fiffe in one of the most sexually degrading ways possible in terms
not
of
true.
not degrading, sexually objectifying ways possible. Where
Again, not true. Did we sexually objectify him? Absolutely.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Was it one of the most sexually objectifying ways? Nah.
I would say it is in the sense that we didn't talk about his work and only talked about his looks.
I agree there.
So in that terms,
That
it was 100%.
That is what we did.
Objectifying him. But we talked to him actually the next day and joked about it. But we wanted to make sure that we cut in and told you a little bit briefly about his work. While we didn't buy any of his work at SPX, it's because we already have all of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we own all of it already.
Michelle Fiffe is an awesome dude. We've talked about it in the past on the show.
have.
Zegas
Yeah.
is amazing. It's one of our favorite comic books ever, really. We're super into it.
Zegas #2 is one of my favorite single issues.
It's so good. And then he does an ongoing comic called Copra, which is monthly.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of dark magic he employs that allows him to do it monthly because it's not.
It's whatever dark magic he has that makes him look like that. I'm just going to drive it right into the ground.
So we wanted to cut in and make sure that point was clear. The dude's an awesome, awesome creator.
Absolutely.
One of the nicest dudes, too.
Super fucking fantastically nice.
Yeah.
Amazing cartoonist. Currently, I think Zegas is completely sold out, which is sucky for you.
I was getting ready to say you have it.
No, for the readers who don't.
Well, you can read some of it online for free at
You can,
I think
yeah.
it's MTV Geek did it originally. Like
think
they
so.
did some stuff on there.
Like no shit, Zegas. That stuff. I still haven't read the Zero issue, and I got it so fucking long ago. Issues 1 and 2 of Zegas are just some of the best comics that I've read, probably since I've ever been reading comics. As far as the illustration, it's some of the most innovative stuff, and the writing is just as good, which is aggravating to me because I'm a writer and not an artist. I can't do both. So, Michelle, I am going to sexually objectify you because you make me mad. Wait, that would mean there's one in Indiana then. Is it Nate Powell?
It could be Nate Powell. Dude's handsome.
He is also skinny.
He's very skinny. He's very formal.
Is he?
Have you noticed that? Like, have you ever noticed how formal he
I was
is?
listening to this.
Well, no, not in a bad way, but like he's every time I've seen him, he's got real nice clothes on, his shirt tucked in.
Yeah.
Which I mean, at cons, it's either like someone with a
What pisses me
Batman T-shirt on or someone with no pants. It's just the gamut of.
Which is weird because my first initial thought was what pisses me off is that my boobs are bigger than his.
Much bigger. Mine are even bigger.
So then I'm like, man, Nate Powell, you draw all day. How are you that fucking skinny? Is it because you never eat?
I would imagine it's because he doesn't eat and just draws all day. I think you answered the question.
Yeah. Well, this has been very revealing
For who?
for myself.
Nate Powell's listening, and he's like, "No, it's not. I eat.
That's
I
not
eat."
why, guys. We know that's a cry for help.
Will Fish, you want to have your words recorded on air like normal talk? Do you have anything to say?
He doesn't.
Okay. I just didn't want. I didn't want to not be like, "Hey, do you want to say anything?" Because then he's like, "Oh, I was going to say something."
Thanks, man.
I'm just trying to be nice.
Was that your thought process?
No, it was. I was just trying to be accommodating.
We appreciate hearing
I like
that.
to include people.
Yeah. No, which is, I know you didn't do this on purpose, so it pisses me off that it worked out this perfectly. But
Great.
but that's what Small Press Expo is.
Yeah.
Is inclusion.
Yeah.
You come here, you feel a part of this community. I saw some cosplay this year, actually.
I saw one person who I'm not sure if they were cosplaying. It may have just been them.
Explain.
See, I don't know. I'm trying to remember what she looked like.
Well, I appreciate
it looked like a costume, but then as she walked by, I was like, oh, that just might be how she rocks it every day.
Yeah.
Like it was not. She had tattoos and a pierced nose.
Oh.
That's my very conservative Indiana background.
Her hair was
Her hair was
asymmetrical.
blue. No, it was like she her style was so like self-defined that it looked like a character.
Yeah.
Like from something. I
Yeah.
mean, not like. But then, because then I assumed it was, and then when she walked by, I was like, oh, she just might be like awesome. She might be awesome and confident.
The one cosplay that I saw was a man dressed up like Wonder Woman.
We saw another one.
It's not
when
like
we were
you would
walking
think.
out.
Like it wasn't. He didn't have like the regular Wonder Woman costume on. He had like jeans on that had stars down the legs, and he had the brass gauntlets on, and then like a Wonder Woman. Like it was like a t-shirt or a tank top or something. It was a cool costume.
That doesn't really sound like a costume. It sounds like he was wearing a Wonder Woman t-shirt and jeans and put stars on the side.
We had gauntlets on too.
Oh.
The gauntlets
Those could've just
or
been
the
his.
bracers, not the gauntlets.
Were they shiny?
They were.
Gross.
Didn't mean to do that. My coffee was just like burp, bitch. I did it.
Wait, so what are we doing now? Are we going? I guess we have to shower
We do. We recorded this segment
to save time. We should
And-
shower together.
Okay. You don't have to convince me any more than that.
I had a lot more prepared.
Did you? We recorded this segment in Rockville, Maryland. Bethesda, Maryland? Where are we? Who are you?
We're in Rockville, and my name's Phil.
There's a good chance the rest of the segments you hear are going to be recorded somewhere else.
How long is the segment?
It is
Whatever, man. It's a whole episode.
50. Whatever.
What else are we going to talk about? We talked about everything.
This is barely a third of an episode.
Well, yeah. I was talking to Fred Chow last night. He was like, I really love listening to your show, but that's insane that it's 2 hours long. Did
you say that?
I was like, I agree, man. I was like, they're very long. But unanimously, everyone said they wanted longer episodes when we polled them.
I was going to say.
Like a year ago.
Almost.
And I told him that. He was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And I was like, I know what you mean, dude. I was like, we finished episodes, and I'm like, this is 2 hours of someone's life this week.
Yeah.
Like, I feel kind of guilty about it.
2 hours of someone's life where we're talking about crotch chocolate.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
what?
I'd listen to 2 hours of something if they were talking about crotch chocolate.
Well, yeah, but you are a patron of the crotch chocolate arts. So that's not really saying a whole
I think
lot.
I'm more than a patron.
You might be.
Founding member.
You might be.
Have you ever been alone in the woods and you needed a hatchet, but also you kind of wanted to read Action Comics?
Yes.
That's happened to me. Only it was kind of a similar situation. I was in the desert and I needed Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes.
Luckily, DCBS was there for me. Discount Comic Book Service. You can find them on dcbservice.com.
Yes.
Online, they will throw out parachutes of supplies and comics, little like parcels, like in Lost, where they drop food
Yes.
onto the island. Is that your line?
No.
Okay. And get you with your comic book fixins.
They will.
DCBservice.com. You can get so much awesome stuff on there for discounted prices.
A lot of really good prices.
Anything you can think of. If you want to buy that gross Catwoman issue, they got it.
That is there.
If you want to read it, they're going to charge you for it, but they'll charge you like half off for it.
They will give you a really good deal on it. You can also follow them on Twitter.
DCB Service, yeah.
DCB Service is their Twitter handle.
If you're in the Fort Wayne, Indiana area, stop by their store. We've already told some hilarious stories about stopping in there. Like they'll punch you if you want them to.
We've said a lot of really
They'll
funny
high
things.
five. Seriously, if you go in there, we'll play it straight this time. They'll have a conversation with you and talk to you.
They'll talk to you. They'll be nice. They'll sell you some comics. And then right after you leave, you can go to the Chinese place that's next door.
Yeah, it's great food.
We almost always go there.
We always do.
Go to DCBS.
Go to DCBservice.com and get some comics.